Houston, we have a problem, and it's because of this. Our city is too reliant and too dependent on cars, and that affects our residents.
Hello and welcome. My name is D'Angelo Martinez, and my project talks about Houston's car-based infrastructure and how the city of Houston must turn their primary focus to alternative modes of transportation. Houston is the fourth largest city in the United States, and with that title comes along a large urban area. The one downfall of this urban sprawl has been the issue of car dependency. It seems impossible to travel throughout Houston if you're not behind a steering wheel. The city is choked by highways that disregard the other modes of transportation, such as walking, biking, and mass transit. This causes many to feel the need for a vehicle to survive in Houston. In 2020, 85% of Houstonians reported using a vehicle to get to work. Without one, commuting to work, getting kids to school, and going out for personal activities becomes a lot more difficult. So how can we make walking, cycling, and public transportation a viable alternative? I wanted to take on the pedestrian experience firsthand to discover how it is to be outside the luxury of an automobile. So I suited up and took a 1.5 mile walk to my nearest grocery store. As I began my walk, the lack of necessities for pedestrians become noticeable immediately. The sidewalks go off and on, and there is hardly any barrier between myself and moving vehicles. And of course, in typical Houston fashion, I must walk under a freeway. Despite it being the only way to get to the other side, there is no consideration for a proper pathway for pedestrians or cyclists. I mean, just look how close I am to this truck with its big old trailer. And walking along the feeder afterwards was no better. I gotta get a touch of nature since I have to walk on the grass with no shade so pedestrians can get their taste of the hot Houston sun. And even when there are sidewalks, they tend to be in bad condition. Though the consideration is nice and the trees add a pleasant element, the sidewalk can definitely be improved upon. The best experience of my walk was along this stretch in front of the elementary school. It has a good sidewalk that is a safe distance away from vehicles, and the street itself has a speed bump to slow down the traffic. Though once I get away from that stretch, I'm back to being pushed onto the road. Walking on grass, or maybe the driveways of properties, becomes very common in these type of areas. As I continue my walk, I reach a street that is aligned with business. This creates a safety hazard as my supposed walkway consists of vehicles coming in and out of businesses, with no regards to others. Once again, there is no consideration for pedestrians or cyclists on this busy street. Though it shouldn't have to be this way. Pedestrians and cyclists are commonly treated as second-class citizens in this standard. I myself received weird looks for walking, as if we're not welcomed on the road. I mean, just keep your eye on these two guys trying to cross the street. They have to dodge fast-traveling vehicles, but what else do you expect when designing streets for cars? So how can we make our city safer for our own citizens? It's important that we build an infrastructure that is convenient not only for drivers, but for our pedestrians and cyclists as well. For pedestrians, it's important to make a safe and walkable city. This includes sidewalks, buffer zones, and shade. By making an area walkable, it increases a sense of community and promotes active living. But that is only possible with the appropriate funding. This has already been done in downtown Houston, as shown. So why is it that just 10 minutes away, the environment is extremely worse? As for cyclists, they deserve their own lane. Whether shared on the street with cars or along the sidewalk, it's important that they are put in a safe situation as they can frequently be hit when traveling alongside vehicles. I also believe that more bike-oriented pathways should be built. The pathways along the bayou are a great way to prioritize cyclists by giving them routes that do not allow for cars to interfere. Once again, in order to do this, it's important that they receive the proper funding. Although Houston says it's committed to improving these methods of transportation, they don't quite put their money where their mouth is. Houston has a budget of a whopping $5.7 billion, but the Houston Bike Plan only receives about $1 million annually for bike-related projects. With increased funding, the city can implement more bike lanes and pathways. As for Metro, Houston's public transportation system, their services have been on an upward trend lately, providing more routes and developing a Metro Rapid line, which uses a transit-only lane. This project gives public transportation an edge against ordinary automobiles, since it doesn't have to share the road. There is only one Metro Rapid route so far, which is West Park in the southwest area of Houston through Uptown. But I can see this being the future of mass transit, an environmental friendly way of traveling in an exclusive lane that allows for faster travel. Metro is also working on the Metro Next project, which will bring 500 miles of new public transportation travel. The city of Houston plans on building an interconnected web by using the light rail and Metro Rapid to connect the center and outskirts of Houston. Although many cities have already mastered this transportation web, it's good to see Houston make the change for a brighter future.
The city of Houston should fund public transportation more, create infrastructure that meets the needs of the pedestrians and cyclists of Houston, and that will allow for a better city with a more diverse transportation system that is accommodating for all its residents.